You'll go bankrupt. Maid's daughter warns Billionaire. Her financial advice saves him from collapse. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. In the heart of Silicon Valley, where billion-dollar empires are built and broken, a young girl stood in a world she was never meant to be a part of. The grand, glass-walled offices of Tyler Industries were buzzing with executives in suits and million-dollar deals. The air smelled of expensive coffee, and the hum of machines working nonstop echoed in the background. In this high-powered environment, it was easy to forget the small, quiet figures who kept everything running behind the scenes. Emma, the daughter of one of the cleaning staff, was one of those figures. She had always been told to stay invisible, to keep her head down and do her job. Emma was just a 10-year-old girl with matted hair and clothes that never quite fit. But today, something was about to change. The CEO of Tyler Industries, Charles Tyler, a man who had built his fortune on tech innovations, was standing by the large conference table in the middle of a tense meeting. His usual confident demeanor was faltering, as his company was teetering on the brink of financial collapse. The numbers weren't adding up. In fact, they had been spiraling for months. A bad investment, a failed acquisition, and now, an impending bankruptcy. Charles Tyler was sweating under the pressure. He was used to commanding boardrooms, making billion-dollar decisions. But today, his empire was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do. If we don't turn this around soon, we're done for, Charles muttered to his team of advisors, who were all frantically looking through spreadsheets and financial reports. I don't know what else we can do. We need a miracle. The room was filled with tension as the advisors continued to discuss possible solutions. The weight of impending failure was palpable. But in the corner of the room, unnoticed by everyone, stood Emma, quietly, doing her cleaning job. She had been there all morning, sweeping the floors, wiping down windows, and trying her best to stay out of the way. Her mother had always told her to keep her head down and work hard. She was just a maid's daughter, after all. But as she quietly moved about the room, something caught her attention. The financial reports scattered across the table seemed to have a glaring mistake. Emma had never studied finance, but she had a knack for spotting patterns. She was good with numbers, always had been. She walked over to the table and glanced at one of the reports, noticing a series of miscalculations in the company's cash flow projections. Emma's heart raced. She knew this wasn't something she could ignore. With trembling hands, she reached out and grabbed one of the reports. Charles noticed her, his eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here?" he barked, clearly irritated. "This is a private meeting." But Emma, undeterred by his tone, looked up at him. "Sir, I think I can help," she said, her voice surprisingly steady for someone so young. The room fell silent. The team of advisors turned to look at her, then back to Charles, who raised an eyebrow in disbelief. "You? Help? How could you possibly?" "Please," Emma interrupted him. "There's a mistake in your cash flow projections. You're about to go bankrupt because of it." Charles stared at her, stunned. This was absurd. What did this little girl know about business? But Emma wasn't done. She quickly pointed to the figures on the report. "If you fix this one issue, you can save the company. You just need to adjust your forecast and streamline the cash flow from your largest expenses." Charles blinked, taken aback. He had been so caught up in the bigger picture that he hadn't seen the small details. Could it really be that simple? Without thinking, he asked one of his advisors to check Emma's calculations. The advisor, skeptical but curious, ran through the numbers. To his surprise, Emma was right. The mistake was there, plain as day. The entire room shifted. Charles's face went pale as the realization hit him. A 10-year-old girl had just saved his company from the brink of collapse. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice trembling. Emma just shrugged, a shy smile on her face. "I'm good with numbers." Charles stared at her for a long moment, then turned to his team. "We have work to do." And just like that, everything changed. Emma, the maid's daughter, had done the impossible. She had saved a billion-dollar empire with nothing but her sharp mind and a bit of courage. It wasn't the miracle Charles had expected, but it was a miracle nonetheless. As he looked at Emma, he realized that sometimes The most unexpected people have the power to change the world. As Emma stood there, her heart was racing. She had never expected to be the one to save Tyler Industries, let alone have the attention of the CEO himself. Charles Tyler, still processing what had just happened, looked at her with a mix of disbelief and awe. The room, once filled with tension and frustration, now hummed with the energy of something extraordinary. Charles motioned for his team to gather around. "Emma," he began, his voice softer than it had been earlier, "I have to admit, I didn't expect this. You've done something that none of us could see." The team members exchanged surprised glances. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. A few minutes ago, she had been just another invisible part of the cleaning crew, and now here she was, standing at the center of a corporate crisis with the fate of a billion-dollar company in her hands. "Thank you," Charles continued, his voice filled with sincerity. "But now we need to act fast. Can you help us fix the rest of the issues?" Emma nodded, her nerves settling as the adrenaline began to fade. "I can help," she said. The next few hours were a blur. Charles and his team listened intently as Emma outlined the steps needed to fix the company's financial issues. She wasn't just pointing out mistakes, she was offering solutions. The team, initially skeptical, quickly realized that Emma knew exactly what she was talking about. Her ability to spot discrepancies and suggest immediate fixes was nothing short of brilliant. As Emma worked, the room's energy shifted. What had started as a high-stakes meeting filled with tension and fear was now a focused strategy session. Charles and his team moved quickly, following Emma's advice and reworking the financial projections. The room, once filled with the hum of uncertainty, now buzzed with the excitement of a company on the verge of turning its fortunes around. After hours of work, Emma looked up from the financial spreadsheets. She was tired, but there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. Charles stood up, his eyes never leaving her. "I can't thank you enough," he said. "This could have been the end of everything, but you saved us. I owe you more than words can say." Emma smiled shyly, her cheeks flushing. "I just did what I knew." Charles paused, looking at her with newfound respect. "You're more than just a cleaning girl, Emma. You've got a brilliant mind. I don't know how we missed that." The room was silent as everyone absorbed his words. For the first time, Emma felt like she truly belonged. But even as she basked in the recognition, she knew the real work had only just begun. There were still many hurdles to overcome, and the road ahead would not be easy. But one thing was clear, Emma was no longer invisible. She had proven that no one, no matter their background, should be underestimated. Her journey was only beginning, and the future was hers to shape. The next few weeks were a whirlwind for Emma. What had started as a single moment of courage had snowballed into a series of changes that no one could have predicted. She found herself working closely with Charles Tyler and his team, helping to restructure the financial foundation of Tyler Industries. The company was no longer on the verge of collapse, but it was clear that Emma's role was more important than ever. Charles had been true to his word. He didn't just thank her, he made sure her talents were recognized. Emma was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was now an essential part of the team, working as a consultant and offering insights that no one else could see. The executive team, once skeptical of her, now sought her out for advice on a daily basis. They were amazed by how she had seen problems that had eluded even their brightest minds. Despite the recognition, Emma remained humble. She knew that this opportunity was rare, and she didn't want to squander it. She continued to study financial reports in her spare time, pushing herself to learn more. But the changes weren't just professional. Emma's personal life began to shift as well. Her mother, who had always been a quiet, hardworking woman, was thrilled to see the impact Emma was having. She could hardly believe the stories Emma would tell her about working alongside some of the most powerful people in Silicon Valley. "I never imagined you would be helping to save a billion-dollar company," her mother would say, her voice filled with pride. "You've done something incredible." Emma smiled, but she never let the praise go to her head. She knew her journey was just beginning. But with each passing day, she felt more confident. As her reputation grew within the company, so did the opportunities. Charles Tyler, who had once seen her as nothing more than a child cleaning his floors, now treated her as a trusted colleague. He invited her to board meetings, and her opinions were taken seriously. It was in one of those meetings that Emma's life would change once again. During a particularly intense discussion about a new acquisition, Charles paused and turned to her. "Emma, he said. You've been working with us for weeks now, and you've proven yourself time and time again. We need your expertise for something big. How would you feel about joining us full-time as a financial consultant? Emma's eyes widened in surprise. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. A full-time position, a chance to have her own office, to make decisions that could shape the future of the company. It was everything she had dreamed of, but it also came with a huge responsibility. I'd be honored, Emma said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. In that moment, she knew that all the years of hard work, all the moments when she had felt invisible, had led her to this. She was no longer the maid's daughter. She was Emma Tyler, a young financial consultant with a bright future ahead of her. And with the support of Charles and the entire team, she was ready to make a difference. As she left the meeting, a sense of pride washed over her. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but Emma was no longer afraid. She had already proven that she could overcome the odds. And with her sharp mind and determination, she was ready to take on whatever challenge came next. The months that followed were both exhilarating and overwhelming for Emma. Her new role as a financial consultant at Tyler Industries brought both challenges and triumphs. As a young, fresh face in the world of high-powered business, she quickly realized that even with all the support she had from Charles and the team, she had to prove herself every day. The company was on the rise, and Emma's contributions were now critical in navigating the uncertain waters of new investments, acquisitions, and market shifts. But despite her success, there were still moments when Emma doubted herself. She was constantly surrounded by people who had decades of experience in the corporate world, many of them with impressive resumes from the most prestigious universities. Emma had none of that. She was still the maid's daughter, the girl who had once swept floors in the same building. The feeling of being an outsider never quite left her, even as her professional achievements mounted. One afternoon, as Emma sat in her office, reviewing a new financial report, Charles knocked on the door and entered with a warm smile. "How's it going, Emma?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. Emma looked up from her work, slightly startled. "I'm just finishing up some projections for the upcoming quarter," she replied, trying to mask the unease she was feeling. Charles nodded, then walked over to her desk, leaning in to look at the figures on her screen. He didn't say anything for a moment, but when he did speak, it was with a quiet admiration. "You've done amazing work here, Emma," he said. "This company wouldn't be where it is now without your insight and expertise." Emma's cheeks flushed at the compliment. She smiled but didn't say anything. It felt surreal to hear someone like Charles, a billionaire and a man who had built his empire from scratch, speak so highly of her. But then he added something that caught her off guard. "You know," he continued, "I've been thinking. There's a board meeting coming up, and I want you to take the lead on it. It's time for you to step up and show the world what you can do." Emma froze. Lead the board meeting? She had never imagined herself in a position like that. She had spent years in the background, invisible to most people, and now, here she was, being asked to take charge of a major presentation. She felt a knot form in her stomach. I don't know if I'm ready," she stammered, her voice betraying the insecurity she was feeling. Charles smiled warmly. "Emma, you've more than proven yourself. You're ready. Trust me." For a moment, Emma considered refusing. She was used to being underestimated, and the thought of standing in front of the entire board, presenting ideas that could shape the future of Tyler Industries, terrified her. But then she remembered the first time she had stood up in front of Charles and the team, when she had saved the company from bankruptcy with a single piece of advice. She had done the impossible once. Maybe she could do it again. "Okay," Emma said quietly, her voice more confident than she felt. "I'll do it." Over the next week, Emma threw herself into preparation. She spent hours working on the presentation, poring over every detail, running through financial models, and anticipating questions from the board members. The pressure was intense, but Emma was determined. On the day of the meeting, as she stood outside the boardroom, her palms were sweaty, and her heart pounded in her chest. She had faced challenges before, but this felt different. This was the moment that would define her career and possibly her future. As she entered the room, she saw the familiar faces of the board members, all seasoned professionals, some of whom had been with the company longer than she had been alive. They looked at her, waiting for her to speak. Emma took a deep breath and began. Her voice was steady, though her nerves still tingled beneath the surface. She walked them through the financial projections, explained the strategies she had developed, and offered bold recommendations for the company's next steps. As she spoke, she began to feel more at ease. The room was silent, but the board members were engaged, nodding along as she made her case. When she finished, there was a brief moment of silence. Then, to her surprise, the board members erupted into applause. Charles stood up first, clapping enthusiastically. "Well done, Emma," he said. "You've shown us all what you're capable of." The room echoed with praise, and Emma couldn't help but smile. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. She wasn't the maid's daughter anymore. She was Emma Tyler, a respected financial consultant, leading one of the most powerful companies in the world. The journey had been long, but Emma knew this was just the beginning. There were still many challenges ahead, but now, she had the confidence to face them head-on. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind for Emma. She was no longer just the quiet, unnoticed girl in the background. She was now a key player at Tyler Industries, and with her new role came new challenges. Her presentation to the board had solidified her place in the company, but the pressure to maintain her reputation was immense. Emma's days were filled with meetings, financial analysis, and strategic planning. She was constantly juggling multiple projects, each with its own set of high stakes. But despite the growing demands of her position, Emma never wavered. She had come too far to let anything hold her back. Yet, as successful as she was in the office, Emma felt a growing tension at home. Her mother, once so proud of her, began to show signs of stress. It was a quiet thing, the kind of stress that wasn't spoken aloud but was felt in the way Emma's mother moved slower, in the quiet sighs that escaped her lips when she thought no one was listening. Emma couldn't ignore it. Her mother had worked tirelessly her whole life to support them both, and now, as Emma's career soared, her mother seemed to be unraveling. One evening, after a long day at the office, Emma came home to find her mother sitting at the kitchen table, her hands resting on a stack of overdue bills. Emma knew instantly what was wrong. Her mother had always handled finances with the utmost care, but now, it seemed like they were barely keeping afloat. Emma sat down beside her, her heart heavy. "Mom, what's going on? We've been doing well, haven't we?" Her mother looked up, her eyes tired but kind. "I've been trying to manage things, but it's harder now, Emma. I'm so proud of you, but I can't help but feel like I'm falling behind. You're so busy, and I just want to make sure we're okay." Emma reached for her mother's hand, her mind racing. She had worked so hard to change her life, but in doing so, she had overlooked the one person who had been there for her every step of the way. Her success had come at a cost. Her mother was struggling, and Emma knew it was time to make things right. The next morning, Emma called a meeting with Charles. She had made a decision. "Charles," she said, her voice resolute, "I need to take a step back. I've been focusing so much on my career, but I need to take care of things at home. My mom needs me, and I need to make sure she's okay." Charles, who had become a mentor of sorts to Emma, looked at her with understanding. "I get it, Emma. Family comes first. You've done more than enough for this company. Take the time you need." Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders as she spoke. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she was making the right choice. She needed to be there for her mother, just as her mother had always been there for her. Over the next few months, Emma shifted her focus. She worked from home when she could, balancing her responsibilities at Tyler Industries with the care her mother needed. It wasn't easy, but it felt right. As she spent more time with her mother, Emma discovered that the quiet stress her mother had been hiding was more than just financial worries. It was the loneliness of having watched her daughter grow up so quickly, the pain of seeing her child succeed while she felt stuck in the same place. Emma made a promise to herself that day. She would succeed in her career, but she wouldn't do it at the expense of the people she loved. She would make sure her success didn't come at the cost of her family. As the months passed, things at home began to improve. Her mother's health improved, and the financial stress lessened as they worked together to address the bills. Emma's relationship with her mother deepened in ways she had never expected. She had spent so much time focused on climbing the corporate ladder that she had forgotten what truly mattered. She learned that success wasn't just about professional accomplishments. It was about balance, about making sure that the people who loved you were also cared for. By the end of the year, Tyler Industries had turned a corner, and Emma had found a new equilibrium in her life. She was still a key player in the company, but now, she was also present for her mother in ways she hadn't been before. It was a delicate balance, but one that Emma had learned to navigate. She had the career, the respect, and the love of her mother. And that, she realized, was the greatest success of all. As the months went by, Emma's life settled into a new rhythm. She had found a balance between her career at Tyler Industries and taking care of her mother. With each passing day, she felt more confident in both her professional and personal life. But the weight of responsibility was never far from her mind. Tyler Industries was flourishing, but Emma knew that it would take more than just financial acumen to keep the company on track. Charles Tyler, who had always been a pillar of support, had become more like a mentor to Emma, guiding her through the complexities of running a business while also teaching her valuable lessons about leadership. Emma had grown beyond the role of the quiet observer. Now, she was actively shaping the company's future. Despite the progress at work, there was still one thing Emma struggled with: her relationship with her father. She had never known him well. He had left when she was very young, and since then, he had drifted in and out of her life, never staying long enough to make a real impact. Emma had always blamed him for the struggles her mother had faced. She resented him for leaving them behind, for choosing his own path over his family. It wasn't until one afternoon when she received an unexpected phone call that Emma began to confront these unresolved feelings. "Emma," the voice on the other end of the line said, "It's me, your father." The words hung in the air, thick with years of unspoken emotion. Emma's heart raced, and for a moment, she didn't know what to say. "Why are you calling now?" she finally asked, her voice guarded. "I know I've been absent for a long time," her father said, "but I've been watching from a distance. I've seen what you've done with your life, and I'm proud of you. I want to make things right." Emma didn't know how to respond. Her father's words were a stark contrast to the man she remembered. He had never once said he was proud of her, never once acknowledged the hardships she and her mother had faced. "You can't just show up after all these years and expect everything to be okay," Emma said, her voice tinged with bitterness. "You left us, and I've had to carry that weight my whole life." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and Emma could almost hear the regret in her father's voice. "I know I can't change the past," he said softly, "but I'm here now, and I want to make amends." Emma felt a knot tighten in her chest. She had spent so many years building a life without him, but now he was asking to be a part of it. She didn't know if she was ready to forgive him, but she knew that she couldn't continue to carry this burden forever. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she admitted, "but I'll give you a chance. Let's start over, but this time, it's on my terms." Over the next few weeks, Emma began to rebuild her relationship with her father. It wasn't easy. There were awkward silences, uncomfortable conversations, and the weight of past mistakes hanging over them. But slowly, they began to connect. Her father made efforts to show that he was serious about making amends, and Emma, in turn, opened herself up to the possibility of healing. One evening, as Emma and her father sat together in her apartment, talking about the past and the future, she realized something. Forgiving him wasn't about excusing his mistakes. It was about freeing herself from the pain he had caused her. She didn't need him to be perfect. She just needed him to be there. And for the first time, she felt like she was finally able to let go of the anger that had held her back for so long. As Emma sat with her father, the city lights twinkling outside her window, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had come so far, both in her career and in her personal life. She had proven to herself that she was capable of achieving greatness, that no one, no matter where they came from, was limited by their circumstances. And now, with her father in her life again, Emma knew that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. She was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was a woman who had built her own future, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. As Emma continued to navigate the complexities of her career, she found herself at a crossroads. Her professional life was thriving at Tyler Industries, and her personal life was slowly finding balance. But there was still a lingering feeling of uncertainty. Despite everything she had accomplished, Emma couldn't shake the doubt that had begun to creep into her mind. She had worked so hard to build this life, but was it enough? Was she truly where she was meant to be? One evening, as she sat in her office overlooking the city skyline, Charles Tyler entered. He had always been a figure of strength and wisdom in her life, someone who had mentored her through every challenge. "Emma, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice serious. Emma looked up from her desk, surprised by the somber tone. Of course, Charles, she replied, setting aside the papers she had been working on. Charles sat down across from her, his eyes studying her carefully. You've done incredible things for this company. You've proven yourself time and time again, he began. But I can't help but notice that there's something weighing on you. You're holding back, and I think it's time we talk about it. Emma felt her chest tighten. Charles had always been able to see through her carefully constructed facade. I don't know what you mean, she said, trying to mask the uncertainty she felt inside. I'm just focused on doing my job. Charles smiled gently, a look of understanding in his eyes. Emma, you've done more than just your job. You've taken this company to new heights, and you've done it with grace and intelligence. But there's something more you need to embrace. It's time to stop holding back. You've been living in the shadows of your past, of what others expected of you. You've got to step into the light and take ownership of who you are. Emma's heart raced as his words sank in. She had always worked hard to prove herself, to overcome the expectations placed on her. But in doing so, she had never truly acknowledged the depth of her own potential. She had always seen herself as the outsider, the maid's daughter who didn't belong. But now, with everything she had achieved, she realized how wrong that view had been. She belonged here, not just because of her accomplishments, but because of who she was. You've shown us all what you're capable of, Charles continued. But now, it's time for you to show yourself. For the first time, Emma saw her future clearly. She wasn't just a participant in the world of business. She was a leader, someone whose voice mattered, whose ideas could shape the future of not just Tyler Industries, but the world around her. That night, as Emma left the office, the weight she had been carrying seemed to lift. The uncertainty that had been clouding her mind was gone. She realized that she wasn't just chasing success for the sake of proving herself anymore. She was building something for herself, for her future, and for the people she cared about. Emma knew that this was only the beginning. There were still challenges ahead, but now, she was ready. She had found her voice, and she was determined to make sure it was heard. As she walked out into the cool night air, she couldn't help but smile. She was no longer the maid's daughter. She was Emma Tyler, a leader in her own right, and nothing could hold her back. As Emma embraced her new sense of confidence, she realized that her journey was far from over. The success she had achieved at Tyler Industries was remarkable, but she knew that leadership came with its own set of challenges. The company had grown, but with growth came new risks. As she rose through the ranks, Emma found herself facing decisions that would shape the future of the business. One afternoon, Charles called her into his office. She entered, feeling the weight of his gaze as he gestured for her to sit. Emma, he began, his tone more serious than usual, we're facing a critical crossroads. The industry is changing, and we need to decide how we're going to adapt. Emma listened intently as he outlined the challenge. A rival company had begun to make significant advances in technology, threatening to overtake Tyler Industries in the market. Emma's mind raced. The company had always prided itself on innovation, but it was clear that they had to move faster to keep up with the competition. She had always been an analytical thinker, but now, she had to think strategically. She looked at Charles, and without hesitation, she spoke. We need to take a bold step forward. It's time to invest in cutting-edge technology. We can't afford to be reactive. We need to be proactive. Let's partner with startups, accelerate our research, and invest in new markets. Charles raised an eyebrow, impressed by her immediate response. That's exactly what I was thinking, he said. I've been hesitant, but I think you're right. We'll need to take some risks if we're going to stay ahead of the curve. Emma felt a surge of determination. She had been given the responsibility to help steer the company, and now she was ready to take it to new heights. She spent the next few weeks working closely with the research and development teams, reviewing proposals, and meeting with potential partners. The pressure was intense, but Emma thrived under it. She knew that this was her moment. As the days passed, the plan began to take shape. Tyler Industries would launch a new product line, one that incorporated the latest technological innovations. It was a risky move, but Emma believed it was the only way forward. On the day of the announcement, Emma stood in front of the board and presented the new strategy. She spoke with confidence, her voice steady as she outlined the potential for growth and the steps they would take to ensure success. The room was silent as the board members listened, weighing the risks and rewards. When Emma finished, there was a pause. Then, Charles stood up, his face breaking into a smile. I think we've got something special here, he said. Let's move forward. The board unanimously approved the new direction, and Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't just about the approval. It was about the confidence she had gained in herself. As the months went by, the company began to see the results of their decision. The new product line was a success, and Tyler Industries regained its position as a leader in the market. Emma had not only helped the company grow, but she had also solidified her place as a key figure in the business world. But even as the company soared, Emma never lost sight of what was important. She continued to prioritize her family, knowing that her success would mean nothing if she didn't have the support of the people who mattered most. Her relationship with her mother had never been stronger. They spent more time together, and Emma made sure her mother's health and well-being were always a top priority. Emma had come so far, but she knew that there would always be new challenges ahead. As she looked out over the city skyline from her office window, she reflected on everything she had accomplished. She wasn't the maid's daughter anymore. She was a respected leader in her own right. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that no matter what came her way, she had the strength to face it head-on. As Emma stood at the helm of Tyler Industries, she had achieved everything she had once dreamed of and so much more. The company was thriving, and her reputation as a leader had become undeniable. But as successful as she had become, Emma knew that true success wasn't just about professional milestones. It was about balance, family, and staying grounded in the values that had always defined her. She had worked hard to build her career, but the journey had shown her that her real strength lay in her ability to connect with others and bring them along with her. One evening, as Emma sat in her office reflecting on the years that had passed, her mother called. "I'm so proud of you, Emma," her mother said, her voice filled with warmth and love. "You've accomplished everything I ever hoped for you. You've made your dreams come true." Emma smiled as she listened. She knew her mother's pride wasn't just about the success she had achieved, but about the woman she had become. The quiet girl who had once swept floors in a corporate building was now a powerful force in the business world, not just because of her skills, but because of the way she treated others and the way she made her family a priority. "Thank you, Mom," Emma replied softly. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've always been my inspiration." The conversation ended, and Emma looked out over the city skyline once more. There was so much she had learned over the years, so many lessons that couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. But it wasn't just the triumphs that had shaped her. It was the moments of vulnerability, the times she had questioned herself, and the strength she had found to rise above the doubts and fears. As Emma thought about her future, she realized that it wasn't just about building Tyler Industries into a bigger, better company. It was about using her position to create positive change in the world around her. She had always believed in the power of hard work, but she also believed in the importance of giving back. With this in mind, Emma set her sights on a new project, one that would help those who had once been in her shoes. She established a scholarship fund for young women from disadvantaged backgrounds, offering them the chance to pursue education and careers in business. The program would provide mentorship, financial support, and the guidance these young women needed to succeed. It was her way of giving back, of ensuring that the next generation of leaders wouldn't have to struggle the way she once had. As she launched the initiative, Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew that her journey had come full circle. She had started as a girl who had to fight for every opportunity, and now she was providing those opportunities for others. Emma's legacy was no longer defined by her success alone, but by the impact she had on the world. She wasn't just a billionaire. She was a mentor, a leader, and a woman who had proven that no matter where you come from, anything is possible. The company continued to grow, but Emma knew that the true measure of her success was not in the profits or the accolades. It was in the lives she had touched along the way. As she stood in the office that had once felt so intimidating, she no longer felt like an outsider. She was home. She had found her place, not just in the business world, but in the world itself. And with that, Emma was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that her greatest success was not in what she had built, but in the people she had helped along the way.